welcome to the beginning of a very exciting series where I will rank the first 100 Victorian novels that I read from 100 all the way to 0. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that I organized them as sticky notes, and that was the best decision because I was able to shift them around super easily. And I'm really happy. I just saw it all in front of me, and it was easier to rank than I thought it would be. So yes, in the month of April, I finally achieved 100 novels, 100 Victorian books, because they're not all novels. And I actually then, there's going to be, Jude the Obscure is not going to be on this list because I somehow I forgot to add it in my Google Sheet, and then I got to 103 by the end of April. So it will not be on this list. So never fear, Adam from Memento Mori, if you are watching, it won't be ranked at the bottom because it's not even on this list. So we're going to go from my least excited Victorian videos to my most excited because we're starting at the bottom with number 100, and coming in at 100. I'm going to rate 10 per video, by the way, in case I did not say that. So let's get this started. Number 100 is The Haunted Hotel by Wilkie Collins. This is a hot mess of a book. I spent the audiobook going, what is happening? What is going on? Who is this? Why are they here? And it just had zero direction in it. And all of these characters that I did not care about. I was not interested in the plot. The writing bored me to tears. There's nothing good I can say about this book. The only reason I finished it was, good gracious, the audiobook was only, I think, 3.5 hours. It was not long, and it was an agonizing 3.5 hours, and I listened to it sped up. Maybe it was longer than 3.5 hours, but it was just awful regardless. I do not recommend this book. If this is the only Wilkie Collins book that you have read and you have decided you don't like Wilkie Collins, I'm very sad on your behalf. That is who you think Wilkie Collins is, because it's awful. It was awful. So it actually was not hard to decide my least favorite Wilkie Collins. Now, there's several Dickens books on this bottommost TBR, and number 99 on my 100 Victorian novels is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. When I hear people fans of this book, talk about how much they loved this book, I honestly wonder if we read the same book. That's how bored I was. I was bored for the entirety of this book. There is one plot line that has this very devoted love between one character and another, but it's unrequited love. And it is very sweet. That is the one part of the book that a little sliver of me was moved by it. And that's it. The rest of it, I could not be bothered. I found no one interesting. It was incredibly long-winded, filled with way too many superfluous details. I do not like A Tale of Two Cities. So, honestly, Dickens for me is love him or hate him. And so, speaking of Dickens, then we move to book number 98. And if you watched my Victober 2020 vlogs, then you heard me whining a lot about Martin Chuzzlewit because, good gracious, was this another long-winded, boring Dickens. And he does this thing where he has these extremely caricatured characters, and I just have a higher opinion of the reader. I can remember a character, even if you don't make them super caricatured. It was just, there was one plot line out of 5 that were going on in this that I did find interesting. If this had been shorter, it would have gotten 3 stars for me. But since I had to trudge through around 850 pages of this, it kept getting lower and lower. I'm like, well, fine, I guess it's 2-star. And then I'm like, nope, it's a 1-star read. So yeah, did not like Martin Chuzzlewit. Then, continuing on through iconic Victorian authors, number 97 is The Trail of the Serpent by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. This is the only Mary Elizabeth Braddon book I have disliked. It is another hot mess of a novel where she was trying to write a detective novel, which props to her for trying, right? It does not go so well. The premise of it sounds amazing. There is a mute detective, and he communicates through sign language. Who doesn't want to read about that? Right? The execution, though, however, she gives you about 25% of the book where you're spending it with this super interesting mute detective and there's a little romance happening. And then the other 75% of the book is happening with the villain. And he's boring. He's super boring. So boring. I did not care about him. I did not want to know about him. He should have been given 25% of the book. She needed to flip that. So it started out with so much potential. The first few pages were so funny. The people I was buddy reading it with were all excited about it. And then progressively we just dropped like flies. I did end up finishing this somehow. So here it is, number 97 on the list. All right, then back to Dickens. Number 96 on the list, Nickleby. This is one of Dickens' earlier books. And again, with the caricatured characters, I'm just so done. So this is, I won't be rereading any of these, like ever, I've just decided. I will not be rereading any of these. Just nothing that interested me about Nickleby. Not a single plot line. The bare bones of the story, I guess I must like because I have a miniseries adaptation of it that I love to watch. But this was Struggle City getting through this book. I don't know how I managed to get through it. I think it's just because I'm very dedicated to this project of finishing all of Dickens' major novels. But right now, I don't feel that motivated to do that. So anyhow, Nickleby, number 96. All right, then number 95. Controversial opinion, folks. Number 95 on the list is Villette by Charlotte Bronte. There are a lot of people that love Villette. I am not one of them. I do not get on with these impenetrable Victorian novels. So here's the thing. If it took a lot of work to read it and I had to agonize over it, but then it gave me a huge reward, I could get on board. That to me is George Eliot. Like, I have to work really hard when I'm reading her books. I have to be very extremely present, and especially for Romola by her. Well, no, I'm not talking about Romola, but I just wanted to say that Romola is one of those books that I labored over. It took a lot out of me to read it. But I came out, and now it's one of my favorite books, even though it was a very agonizing process reading it, but it was so memorable. And I think that is what some people get out of Villette, and it's just not me. It does not go with my style, and I was incredibly bored. There were just so many discussions of Protestant versus Catholic, and so long-winded, and I did not understand Lucy Snow as a character, and I know some readers love her, so that's just a sign. It's just not a book for me. All right, then we move on to number 94, which is, again, controversial, The Hound of the Baskervilles by Arthur Conan Doyle. I know, people are going to come at me, but here's the thing. I feel like an old professor saying, like, when you've read as many mysteries as I have, but that's how it feels, honestly. Like, he just pales in comparison. And let me just say, if you are a genius, that doesn't mean you get to trample on everyone and talk arrogantly all the time about how much of a genius you are and how it's such a trial for you being around all these plebes all the time. Like, his personality flaws, I can't get past them. Like, Hercule Poirot, eventually I was able to be like, okay, you have these personality flaws, but I can get behind you as a character. Sherlock Holmes, no, I'm not interested. And when it comes down to it, the solution of the Hound of the Baskervilles, spoilers, I'll put a spoiler banner there. It is just a big dog. That's all it is. I wanted it to be like this otherworldly being, like a ghost of a dog or something. It was just a dog. That was the resolution, it was a dog. It was not satisfying in the least to me. It was so underwhelming, like shoulder shrug. Okay, so this video is just turning into me roasting these books that I didn't like. Okay, number 93 is Desperate Remedies by Thomas Hardy. So there's one from a lot of iconic Victorian authors here, except Elizabeth Gaskell. Anyhow, Desperate Remedies. And I know some people thoroughly enjoy this, and I thought I liked it after reading it. This is the weird thing about Desperate Remedies. I think I gave it like 4 stars and I talked it up. But then the farther I got from it, the more I realized, like, oh no, I really don't like this. And also I think the last few Thomas Hardy books I've read have really put a bad taste in my mouth for him generally as a writer, except for the few of his books that I really, really love. It didn't deliver. It was him trying for a sensation novel, and it was just like Mary Elizabeth Braddon trying for a detective mystery with Trail of the Serpent. Like, it just flops. And it is unnecessarily strange. It's like he tried to make as strange as possible of a book that he could. And I really cannot stand these books where I feel like you just don't have a handle on what the characters are like at all. It just really perplexes me. So no. Desperate Remedies, unfortunately, the longer I get away from it, unlike Romola, the longer I get away from it, the more I dislike it. Okay, then, really coming out the gate swinging here with all the Dickens for 92 is Barnaby Rudge. This Barnaby Rudge is a trudge. It's another Dickens historical novel. I mean, Tale of Two Cities and Barnaby Rudge, and I just did not care. I didn't care. You can't make me care if you're going to bore me that much and make me suffer through so many pages. I did not like Barnaby Rudge, and it was so long-winded, unnecessarily so. You could have told us that. The amount that you told, you could have condensed down to 400 pages. Maybe I would like it better then. So no, do not like Barnaby Rudge. And then lastly, and maybe the most controversial on here, is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. When I put it on my April TBR, I had several loyal devotees of The Tenant of Wildfell Hall tell me what they liked about the book, trying to convince me to like it. And I saw it all and I was like, I see you, I see what you're saying, and I still don't like this book, darn it. It just, to me, when people talk about its virtues, they talk about women's rights. And I'm like, yes, but what else? Like, it is obviously a woman should be able to divorce an abusive husband. I am very on board with what Anne Bronte is arguing for, but it just feels like extremely heavy-handed. And what else is there about this book? When I hear people talk about it, they talk about how it is a women's rights novel. But to me, an issue being addressed in a book is not a reason for me to love a book. That's just an issue that's addressed. Like, I think novels should have plot to them and more to them. And just the plot to me is just hearing about her terrible abusive marriage. That's what the plot is. And it's not a plot. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I think it would have been better suited as an essay. Okay. So there are my controversial Victorian opinions, video number 1. Those are the ones that I liked the least. And I'm just waiting for the thumbs down and the salty comments I'm going to get. So these are my opinions. This was my experience reading these books. So there we go. The bottom 10 in my Victorian 100. All right, now I'm off to film books 90 through 81. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back with another video soon.